This is the G15 Advantage Edition. Currently one of the only few laptops with the 6800M inside. One of the things I was most interested in before buying this was the ray tracing performance. Unfortunately, there's not much information available, so I decided to make this video. First things first, my unit came with 16GB of dual rank RAM, so not the garbage like in Jared's tech video, fortunately. It also came with a 1TB SSD and a 165Hz QHD display, but realistically you're not going to play at that resolution with ray tracing enabled. So all my tests were done at 1080p. You're also probably going to see a slight performance boost if you're using a monitor connected to the Type-C port on the back of the laptop because it's directly connected to the 6800M. I unfortunately don't have a cable for that, so I couldn't test that. I also decided to include my desktop PC, which has a 11400 and 3070 inside. This is obviously not a completely fair comparison, but just as a point of reference. So let's get right into the benchmarks. The first game on our list is also the newest, Battlefield 2042. The opinions on this game are mixed at best. I'm having a blast. It sure has its issues. Also performance-wise, it's currently not the best. Ray tracing, ambient occlusion just adds on top of that. I decided to use the high preset, DRS off, 1080p obviously, and ray tracing also enabled. It averaged 58 FPS with 24 for the 1% lows. Most drops occurred when dying, laying on the ground, getting revived, and aiming down sights. It's playable, I wouldn't recommend it, it just doesn't feel great. Even on my main desktop PC with the 3070 inside, I wouldn't play like that. The performance loss is just too great, especially when it comes to the 0.1 and 1% lows, so not great. I tested the game across 2 matches, one conquest and one breakthrough in all-out warfare, so disregard the gameplay in the background. Next up, one of my absolute favorite games, Metro Exodus, with the Enhanced Edition. This game performed really well. 4A did a fantastic job optimizing it for all sorts of hardware. It can also be enjoyed at 1440p, but I decided to keep it 1080 like all the other tests. I decided to settle for the Ultra preset, High RT, Hybrid Reflections, and VRS set to 2x. It achieved an average of 67 FPS, 44 and 37 for the 1% and 0.1% lows respectively. Quite a difference with the 3070, but still really playable. Not a huge amount of input lag, so it can definitely be enjoyed. I decided to test the game in Sam's Story, the Vladivostok level. It's quite heavy, so expect a bit better performance in like the Volga level. Really good results, one of the best on the list despite looking so great graphically. And in general, this is a really beautiful game. I recommend checking it out. And definitely play it in Russian, not English, German or whatever. But yeah, let's go to the next game. Black Ops Cold War is next on the list. Not the newest title, but especially if you like the zombie mode, it's quite fun. I decided to test it in zombies on the Mauer der Toten map. I set all the settings to the max, the free RT settings to medium, and it also performed quite well. Mauer der Toten is a quite heavy map, so it's kinda worst case scenario. Expect a bit better performance on other maps or the multiplayer. It averaged 75 FPS with pretty good 1% and 0.1% lows of 50 and 23. It is definitely more than playable, with also having a enjoyable experience. I could see myself playing it like that all day. Also, Mauer der Toten looks especially beautiful with ray tracing enabled. The most disappointing game was probably Minecraft. The official Bedrock version with ray tracing support performed absolutely poorly. It averaged 32 FPS, which sounds on paper quite playable, but the input lag, even with VSync disabled in the options file, was just too much. Hopefully this can later be addressed now that the consoles also support things like FSR. Maybe Mojang/Microsoft will collaborate with AMD or add FSR support in the future. I tested the game with Kelly's RTX pack with also all the add-ons enabled and the render distance set to 16 chunks. It's a cool, faithful conversion of the default Minecraft textures. So yeah, fortunately quite disappointing. Hopefully it will be better in the future. Cyberpunk performed quite okay, I would say. I used the Alex optimized settings from Digital Foundry with the RT lighting medium. So I used his RT light preset. I drove around Night City, did a couple of Delamain missions, and did average 46 FPS with quite respectable 1% and 0.1% lows. The input lag was quite okay, not like Minecraft with ray tracing. It felt absolutely fine. I could play like this, no problem. But the difference between the 3070 and 6800M is once again quite huge. Doom Eternal, one of the best optimized games out there. I use the Ultra Nightmare preset, which is not the wisest thing to do, but it's a great way to test hardware. RT obviously enabled, and dynamic resolution scaling disabled. It averaged over 100 FPS with good to 1% and 0.1% lows, so it felt great. Pretty much no input lag. It's probably the best performing game from all of the games we tested today. I also just for fun decided to test Forza Horizon 5, only the Vista mode, so the car showcase room supports ray tracing, but there's a cool Digital Foundry video on a mod that enables gameplay ray tracing, which I recommend checking out. It averaged 102 FPS, so in case someone was interested in that, here are the numbers. So this concludes our testing. It was definitely fun and interesting to check out what the 6800M was capable of. It's more or less just a desktop 6700 XT in mobile form. It would probably be interesting to check this out in like half a year from now, when more games support ray tracing as well as FSR, so performance could potentially be even better in the future. If you liked the video, leave a like, if not, dislike. I'm Yoop, I wish you well, and goodbye.